Hey guys, tonight we are traveling back, way back. We are going to the windswept coasts of Scandinavia, to the time of the Vikings. But we are not here to pick up an axe or sail a long ship. No, tonight's journey is about a different kind of danger. One that was quieter, more personal, and in some ways, far more terrifying. We are going to explore why being considered too pretty in the Viking Age was not a blessing, but a genuine, life-threatening curse. It is a strange thought that the very things society often celebrates could, in a world of limited laws and overwhelming force, make you a target. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It truly helps the channel find other people like you, who enjoy drifting off to the strange and forgotten corners of history. And as always, I would love to know where you are listening from. Drop your city and the time in the comments below. It is always a quiet thrill to see our little community stretching all across the globe. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let us ease into tonight's journey together. The world, for now, is small and safe, and it smells of wood smoke and damp earth. You are curled up on a fur-lined bench, close enough to the central hearth to feel its warmth on your cheeks, but far enough away that the sparks do not reach your woolen tunic. This is the longhouse, your home. It is a single, vast room, a universe unto itself. Above you, the ceiling is a high, dark vault, where smoke from the fire gathers before finding the hole in the thatched roof. The air is thick with the scent of the simmering stew in the iron cauldron, the faint, animal musk from the livestock quartered at the far end of the building, and the familiar smell of your family. You are a child. Your days are measured not by a clock, but by the light filtering through the smoke hole and the chores that need doing. You help your mother at the warp-weighted loom that stands against the wall, its stone weights clinking softly as she works the threads. You grind barley in a stone quern, your small hands pushing the heavy top stone in a slow, rhythmic circle. You listen to your father and uncles mending tools by the fire, their low conversation a constant, comforting rumble beneath the crackle of the flames. But lately, something has begun to shift. It is not a loud change, nothing you can point to. It is in the quiet moments. It is in the way people look at you. It used to be simple. A pat on the head from a visiting neighbor, a warm smile. Now, the glances linger. When a trader comes to the door, his eyes, which should be on the silver arm rings your father is offering, slide to you. He looks at you not as a child, but as something else, an object, a curiosity, a prize. His compliment to your father, your daughter is fair, sounds less like an observation and more like an appraisal. Your mother notices. She will casually step between you and the visitor, her hand resting on your shoulder, a silent act of shielding. Later, she will sit you down and brush your hair. It is a ritual you have always loved, but it feels different now. She uses a comb carved from deer antler, its teeth fine and smooth. Contrary to the brutish image many have, your people value cleanliness. Archaeologists are constantly finding these combs, along with tweezers and other grooming tools, in Viking graves. A well-kept appearance was a sign of self-respect. But as she draws the comb through your long, unusually colored hair, you sense it is no longer just about tidings. It is about tending to something that has become significant, and its significance feels heavy. You do not fully understand it. What is this beauty they see? The poets and skaldas who sometimes entertain in the longhouse sing tales of legendary women, often with hair like spun gold or skin as white as snow. But historians today are still debating whether this was the universal standard of beauty, or simply a poetic trope, a convenient and romantic image for a song, perhaps in a world of hard labor. True beauty was seen in a strong frame and capable hands. Or maybe it was rarity, a flash of dark hair in a sea of blondes, or eyes the color of the summer sky. Whatever the specific formula is, you seem to fit it. And the awareness of this fact is beginning to settle over your home like a fine dust. Tonight, you lie on your sleeping platform, wrapped in a heavy sheepskin. The fire has burned down to glowing embers, casting long, dancing shadows that make the carved posts of the house look like silent, watching giants. You can hear your parents talking on the other side of the hearth. Their voices are too low for you to make out the words, but you do not need to. You can hear the tight thread of worry in your father's tone, and you can hear the soft, weary sigh that escapes your mother. They are talking about you. You are the source of that worry. You are safe in the warmth of your home, for now, but the world outside the heavy oak door is vast, and you are just beginning to realize that it sees you not as a child, but as a treasure to be coveted, and treasures, in this age, are rarely left in peace. The world outside the longhouse is sharp and bright. The air, tasting of salt from the nearby fjord, is a clean shock after the smoky warmth inside. You are older now, old enough that your chores take you further from the safety of the house. You go to the stream with the other women of the village, your arms wrapped around a bundle of laundry. This is where the life of the community breathes, in these shared tasks. It is also where the whispers live. At first, you don't notice them. You are focused on the numbing cold of the water as you beat the tunics against a smooth, flat rock. You listen to the usual chatter, complaints about a lazy farmhand, praise for a new batch of ale, news of a birth in the next settlement over. But then you start to feel it. A silence that falls when you draw near. A conversation that picks up again, just a little too quickly. Once you have passed, one day, you catch it. A fragment of a sentence carried on the wind. It dowried her face alone. The woman who said it, a neighbor named Astrid, does not see that you have heard. She is talking to an older woman, her hands busy wringing out a woolen cloak. The older woman nods, her gaze flickering towards you for a half second. A treasure for a strong man to win, she replies, and a danger for a weak one to keep. They are not being cruel, not intentionally. This is the brutal calculus of your world. They are assessing you, just as they would assess a good milking cow, a strong-backed workhorse, or a fine steel axe head. They are weighing your value, your potential, and the trouble that value might bring. To them, your face is not just a face. It is a resource, a political asset, a potential flashpoint. You are the daughter of a carl, a free man. Your father owns his land, his livestock, and his honor. This status gives you a certain standing, but it also places you in a precarious position. You are not a thrall, a slave, to be taken and used without consequence. An offense against you is an offense against your father and your kin. But you are also not of the high-ranking nobility, the Jor Elis, who can shelter behind a fortress of wealth and armed retainers. You exist in the vast, competitive middle, where fortunes are made and lost, and where a man's strength is tested daily. Your beauty complicates this. It elevates your family as potential, making a marriage alliance with you more desirable. A powerful chieftain might overlook your family's modest wealth in favor of the prestige of having such a famously beautiful wife. But it also paints a target on your father's back. Men who cannot win you by negotiation might consider winning you by force. The abduction of a bride, or wife stealing, while a violent and dishonorable act was a known path to marriage, a shortcut that bypassed a father's consent. If the abductor was powerful enough, your family might have no choice but to accept the outcome to avoid a bloody and unwinnable feud. You start to notice the way the men look at you. Too, the young men your age, who once might have challenged you to a foot race or shared a joke, now fall quiet. They watch you with a mixture of awe and something that feels like fear, not of you, but of the consequences of approaching you. The older, established men watch you with a different kind of intensity. Their eyes are calculating. They look from you to your father, measuring his strength, his resolve, the number of fighting-age sons and brothers he has at his back. This is the central, agonizing question that historians still debate. How much agency did women like you truly have? The law codes that have survived, like the GRA gas from Iceland, paint a clear picture. Legally, you are dependent on your father, then your husband, then your son. You cannot plead your own case at the local assembly. You cannot inherit land if you have a brother, and your marriage is largely a transaction between men. And yet, the sagas, the epic stories your people tell on long winter nights, are filled with formidable women. Women who incite their husbands to vengeance, who cleverly manage households and fortunes, who offer shrewd political advice, and who are sometimes the central pillar of their family's honor. Gudrun, Brynhild, Freyed as their names are spoken with respect and a little bit of fear. They were not passive pawns. So which are you? Are you the object described in the law codes? A valuable piece to be moved around at dangerous sport? Or are you one of the women from the sagas, capable of turning your precarious situation into a position of power? As you walk back from the stream, the damp laundry heavy in your arms, you feel the weight of those gazes on your back. The wind is cold, but it is the chill of being watched, of being known for a single attribute that truly seeps into your bones. The whispers are no longer just sounds. They are the invisible threads of a net slowly closing in around you. They are defining you before you have had a chance to define yourself. The fire in the longhouse hearth crackles. A small, domestic sun in your enclosed world. It is late. The snores of your brothers and the farmhands from the far end of the hall have settled into a deep, rhythmic chorus. Your mother is asleep on her bench, a fur blanket pulled up to her chin. Only you and your father are awake, sitting on opposite sides of the glowing embers. He is sharpening the blade of a small wood-carving knife, the whetstone making a soft, whispery shesh a sound as he draws the steel across it. You are watching his face, illuminated by the firelight. He is a strong man. His hands are calloused and scarred from a life of work and the occasional fight. His shoulders are broad, but in the quiet of the night, you see something in his eyes that you rarely see in the daylight. A deep and troubled weariness. His gaze is fixed on the blade, but you know he isn't really seeing it. His mind is somewhere else. His worry has become a silent resident in your home. It sits at the table with you during meals. It follows you when you go to the milking shed. It is there in the way he has been reinforcing the heavy oak door, adding a new iron strap to the hinges. It is there in the way he now insists your older brother accompany you even on the short walk to the village spring. Tonight, he finally speaks of it, though not directly. Olaf, son of Einar, was at the trading post today, he says, his voice a low rumble. He does not look at you. He flips the knife over, sharpening the other side. He asked about our harvest, about our cattle. A pause. The whetstone whispers. He asked about you, Olaf. The name lands in the quiet room like a heavy stone. You have seen him, his father, Einar. is a man of growing importance, a local chieftain with a fleet of 2 long ships and a reputation for ruthless ambition. Olaf is his eldest son, a young man who wears his father's arrogance like a fine cloak. He is handsome, in a severe, sharp-featured way, but his eyes are cold. They are the eyes of a man who takes what he wants. He is looking for a wife. Your father continues, his knuckles white as he grips the knife. His father seeks an alliance that will secure the western shoreline. Our land sits in a strategic spot. He is laying it all out for you, not as a father to a daughter, but as one strategist to another. It is a bitter kind of respect, born of necessity. This is the reality of your world. Marriage is not about love, or even companionship. It is about politics, land, and power. It is a merger. Your hand in marriage is a business asset, a treaty waiting to be signed. A lesser-known fact about Viking marriage is that divorce was surprisingly straightforward for both men and women. If a husband was abusive or failed to provide, a wife could publicly declare herself divorced. However, this legal right was often a world away from practical reality. A woman divorcing a powerful, vindictive man would need a strong family to back her up and protect her, a luxury not everyone had. For your father, this is a terrible crossroads. An alliance with Einar's family through marriage would bring protection. It would elevate your family as status. No petty raider would dare attack a farmstead under the protection of a powerful chieftain. It would be the smart move, the safe move. But he has seen Olaf's predatory gaze on you. He has heard the stories of the young man's temper. He knows that giving you to Olaf would be like handing a lamb to a wolf. The pride he has in you is simple. Paternal pride in your existence is at war with his duty as the head of the household to ensure its survival and prosperity. And this is the source of his worry. It is not pride in your beauty. It is fear. Fear of what it attracts. He looks at you and he doesn't see a lovely young woman. He sees a flash of light in a dark forest, attracting moths and predators alike. He sees a spark that could either warm his house or burn it to the ground. No good will come of it, he says, finally putting the knife down. He looks across the fire, directly at you. And for the first time, the strategist is gone. He is just your father. His eyes are filled with a helpless sorrow. Your face, it has made you too visible. Historians often debate the emotional landscape of the past. Were parents as emotionally attached to their children as they are today, in a time when death was so common and life so hard? Some argue that the practicalities of survival left little room for sentiment. But moments like this, hinted at in the sagas and poems, suggest otherwise. The fierce, protective love of a parent is a timeless force. What has changed is the nature of the dangers they must protect their children from. He does not need to tell you what he fears most. He fears a forced marriage, one where he is not strong enough to refuse. He fears a blood feud, ignited by an insult to your honor that he is honor-bound to avenge, even if it costs him everything. He fears a raid, where you are not asked for, but simply taken. He looks at you, his daughter, the pride of his life and the source of his greatest fear. In his eyes, you see the cruel paradox of your existence. Your beauty is a treasure he cannot hide and a weapon he cannot wield. It is his to protect, but its power is a wild thing, drawing attention he cannot control. The warmth of the fire suddenly feels very thin, and the shadows in the corners of the longhouse seem deeper and colder than before. The world shrinks to the size of a crowded meadow. This is the thing, the local assembly, a gathering of all the free people in the region. It is held twice a year, a combination of parliament, courtroom, and festival. You have been before, but never like this. Today, you are not an anonymous child in the crowd. You are acutely aware that you are being observed. You stand with your family near the edge of the gathering, by a large, flat-topped boulder known as the Lorak. This is where the law speaker, a man elected for his knowledge of the legal traditions, will recite a third of the law from memory. It is a solemn duty, for your people have no books of law. It lives in the minds of men and the consensus of the community. In theory, this is a place of order, where disputes are settled with words, not swords. In practice, you are beginning to see it is far more complicated. Your father brought you here for a reason. He wants you to see the world as it is. He also wants to be seen to present a united front, his family strong and present. But his main goal is unspoken. He is putting you on display, but under his protection. It is a dangerous gamble, a way of saying, yes, she is my daughter, and she is under my watch. Approach with respect, and they do approach, not with weapons, but with calculating eyes and veiled words. Friends of your father greet him, but their gaze drifts to you. They see your hair, which catches the pale sunlight. They see the fine woolen cloak your mother spent all winter weaving for you. They see not a person, but an opportunity. Then, you see him, Olaf, son of Einar. He is standing with a group of his father's retainers, all of them loud, confident, and armed. They are the center of their own universe, laughing too loudly, their hands resting on the pommels of their swords as if they were extensions of their own bodies. Olaf is not laughing. He is watching you. There is no warmth in his gaze, no shyness, no respect. It is the most direct, possessive stare you have ever received. It is the look of a man appraising livestock. He is not seeing you. He is seeing a thing he wants to own. His eyes travel from your face down to your feet and back up again. A slow, deliberate act of visual consumption. He wants you to feel it. He wants you to know you have been marked. Your skin prickles. You feel a flush of anger, hot and sharp, followed by a wave of cold fear. You want to turn away, to hide behind your father's bed, but you force yourself to hold his gaze for a moment. You will not be cowed, but in that half-second, you see a flicker of amusement in his eyes. Your defiance entertains him. It is part of the challenge. This is the first time you have felt the true weight of this kind of attention. It is a strange, unnerving violation. It reduces you to a surface, an object. He is not interested in who you are, what you think, or what you want. He is interested only in what you look like, and what possessing you would say about his own power. A strange and little-known aspect of Norse society is the high value placed on honor, or Drengi Kapr. It was a complex blend of integrity, generosity, and courage. A man's reputation was his most valuable asset. But this concept of honor had a dark side. Insults, especially public ones, demanded retribution. Historians still debate how rigidly this code was followed, but the sagas are filled with stories where a seemingly minor slight, a mocking verse, a rude gesture, or an unwanted advance toward a female relative spirals into a multi-generational blood feud. You realize with a sickening jolt that Olafester is, in its own way, a public challenge. He is testing your father's honor by openly coveting you. He is asking the whole assembly a silent question. Is this man strong enough to keep what is his? Your father feels it too. You see the muscles in his jaw tighten. His hand, which had been resting on your brother's shoulder, now rests on the hilt of his own CX, the short, single-edged knife that every free man carries. It is not a threat, not yet. It is a response, a signal, a quiet declaration that he sees the challenge and is not backing down. The air between your family and Dolaf's retinue becomes thick with unspoken tension. Other people notice. Conversations near you quiet down. People subtly shift, creating a pocket of empty space around the two groups. They can smell the conflict brewing, and no one wants to be caught in the middle. Olaf finally smirks. The slow, arrogant twist of his lips. He turns his back on you, a deliberate and dismissive gesture, and says something to his men. They all laugh. The harsh, barking sound. The moment is over, but nothing is resolved. The threat has vanished. It has just been formally declared. As the lost speaker's voice drones on from the rock, reciting ancient rules of inheritance and fines for stolen sheep, the words feel meaningless. You have just witnessed the real law of this place in action. It is the law of the stronger arm, the sharper sword, and the more ruthless will. Your father may have the legal right to refuse a marriage proposal, but that right is only as strong as his ability to defend it. You came to the thing as your father's daughter. You leave feeling like his most vulnerable flank. The sun is shining. The air is full of the sounds of the festival, but you feel a chill that has nothing to do with the weather. It is the first shadow of a real, defined danger, and it has a name. Olaf. The longhouse has become a school of silence. Your mother is your teacher. Her lessons are not taught with words, but with movements, glances, and the quiet rhythm of her work. She teaches you how to be less visible. She has you change the way you braid your hair, opting for a simple, tight plait down your back instead of the more elaborate styles that other girls your age are beginning to wear. When you leave it alone, she encourages you to use the earth tone dyes, the browns from walnut shells, the yellows from onion skins rather than the vibrant reds and blues that require expensive madder root and woad. These brighter colors were a status symbol, a way to display wealth. Your mother's lesson is clear. Do not display anything. She pulls you deeper into the domestic sphere, the Indanga or DR, the world inside the fence, while your brothers are outside, strengthening their bodies and learning the ways of men in the Utengard are. The world outside. You are learning the intricate arts of survival within these four walls. You learn to master the slow, patient work of turning milk into cheese and sky are. A thick, sour yogurt that will keep through the lean months. You learn which herbs to gather for healing yarrow for wounds, meat is what for fevers and which ones are for seasoning, the endless stews of salted fish and barley. These are the skills of a capable housewife, the manager of a farmstead's resources. A woman's power in this society, though rarely public, was immense within her own domain. She was the keeper of the keys, a literal symbol of her authority over the household stores. When she married, her husband would present her with the keys to the chests and storehouses, a formal transfer of domestic power. She was responsible for the food, the clothing, and the well-being of everyone living under her roof. But your mother's lessons feel more urgent than simple preparation for marriage. She is teaching you how to build a fortress of competence. She is showing you that value is not only skin deep. Perhaps she hopes that if men see you as a skilled and indispensable manager, they might see past the distracting glimmer of your face. Or perhaps she is simply giving you the tools to command respect in whatever future awaits you, whether it is one of your choosing or not. There is a strange, almost forgotten piece of Viking lore, the practice of SCI drive. It was a form of magic or shamanism, primarily practiced by women called VOLer. It involved chanting, journeying into trance states, and divining the future. This was a source of immense power and fear. A skilled VOLVA was respected and sought after, but also viewed with suspicion as someone who meddled with fate. Historians still puzzle over the exact nature of SE. I drive and whether it was a genuine spiritual practice or a form of social influence. Your mother does not practice SCA drive, but her teachings have a similar quality. She is teaching you a kind of domestic magic, a way to subtly influence your environment, to create order, and to carve out a sphere of control in a world that gives you very little. One evening, as you are grinding grain, the rhythmic scraping of stone on stone filling the air, she stops you. She takes your hands in hers. Her fingers are rough from a lifetime of work, but her touch is gentle. Strength is not always in the arm that holds the sword, she says, her voice slow. Sometimes it is in the hand that holds the key, the hand that knows how much grain is left in the sack, the hand that can turn wool into words. She looks at you, her eyes filled with a fierce, protective love. They look at your face and see a prize. They jewel. Let them. Jewels are cold and hardened, lifeless. You will be the hearth, the fire that warms the house, the bread that feeds the family. That is a power they do not understand, and that is a power they cannot simply take. In her words, you find a flicker of a different kind of hope. The world has been trying to define you by a single, passive quality. Your mother has given you a new definition, one built on action, skill, and substance. She is arming you, not with steel, but with knowledge. And so you learn. You learn to spin wool into a thread so fine and strong it feels like magic. You learn the precise amount of salt needed to preserve the winter's meat. You learn to read the sky for a coming storm, to read a person's face for a hidden intention. You are still the girl with the beautiful face, a girl who draws dangerous attention. But now, you are something more. You are becoming the keeper of the keys, the silent, watchful heart of the longhouse. You still feel the weight of Olaf's gaze from the thing, a lingering shadow. But now, it feels less like a judgment and more like an ignorance. He saw a pretty object. He has no idea of the quiet strength being forged within you, right here, in the smoke and the silence of your mother's tutelage. The sound of the thing is different this time. Last time, it was a blur of noise and faces. Today, it has a terrifying clarity. You are here not as an observer, but as the subject of the proceedings, not officially. Of course, your name will not be spoken from the Lorak, but the air is electric with the dispute that circles around you. You stand with your family again, but the space around you is wider, more deliberate. People give you a wide berth, as if you are the center of a storm. Across the meadow, you see Olaf and his father, Einar, surrounded by their supporters. They look confident, immovable. The dispute is, on the surface, about a strip of woodland that borders your father's property and Einar's. Einar claims the trees are his, that the boundary marker was moved years ago. Your father claims it has been in your family for generations. Everyone here knows this is not about trees. The trees are a pretext. This is a show of force. Einar is using the law as a weapon, a way to put pressure on your father, to grind him down, to show him who holds the real power in this region. You watch as your father goes before the chieftains and landowners who act as judges. He speaks plainly and clearly. His voice steady, he presents his case, citing the memory of his own father and grandfather. He is respectable, honorable, but he is one man. Then Einar speaks. He does not raise his voice. He doesn't need to. He is flanked by a dozen armed men. His words are smooth, But there is an undercurrent of threat in every sentence. He talks about the need for clear boundaries, for respect for property, for strong leadership. As he speaks, his gaze sweeps across the crowd and settles, for just a moment, on you. It is a calculated move. He is reminding everyone what this is truly about. He is linking the legal dispute over land to the unspoken dispute over you. This is the thing in its rawest form. One of the strangest things for modern minds to grasp about Viking law is that there was no police force to enforce a verdict. If the assembly ruled in your father's favor, it was up to him and his kin to see that the ruling was respected. If Einar chose to ignore the verdict, your father's only recourse would be to gather his own allies and enforce it by violence, or to declare Einar an outlaw. This would make him a man outside the protection of the law, whom anyone could kill without penalty. But declaring a man as powerful as Einar an outlaw was an extreme and dangerous step, likely to trigger a full-blown war. The law, you realize, is a fragile shield. It is a gentleman's agreement in a world full of thugs. It works only as long as everyone agrees to play by the rules. When someone with enough swords decides the rules don't apply to them, the whole system collapses into a simple test of strength. You feel a sense of profound helplessness. You are the cause of this conflict, yet you are utterly voiceless. You cannot speak before the assembly. You cannot argue, or plead, or testify. You can only stand there, a silent symbol of the real prize. The men gathered here are not just judging a property dispute. They are watching a power struggle play out. They are assessing your father's strength, Einar's ruthlessness, and deciding where their own loyalties and interests lie. The verdict comes, and it is a masterpiece of political maneuvering. The judges, unwilling to directly challenge a man like Einar, but also unwilling to completely abandon a respected freeman like your father, come to a compromise. The land will be divided. A new boundary will be marked. It is a loss for your father, a clear erosion of his property and his standing. He has been publicly diminished. He accepts the judgment with a stoic nod, his face an unreadable mask, but you can see the slump in his shoulders. He has been wounded, not by his sword, but by the cold, hard mechanics of power. As the assembly begins to break up, the tension does not dissipate. It solidifies. Einar and his son Olaf walk past your family. They do not look at your father. They look at you. Olaf gives you a slow, triumphant smile. It is a victor's smile. He has not won you yet, but he has demonstrated that he can and will bend the world to his will to get you. He has shown your father, and everyone else, that his claim is backed by a force that the law cannot contain. The walk home is silent. The air, which had seemed so bright on the way here, now feels heavy and gray. Your father's defeat hangs over all of you. He defended his honor as best he could within the system, but the system itself proved to be a tool of the powerful. Historians often argue about the democracy of the thing. Was it a truly egalitarian institution, a forerunner to modern parliaments, where every free man had a voice? Or was it an oligarchy, where the wealthy and powerful simply used the assembly as a stage to legitimize their own ambitions? Standing here, in the shadow of your father's public humiliation, you know the answer. The hammer of the law, you now understand, always lands with the weight of the arm that swings it. And today, you felt the chill as its shadow passed over you. The defeat at the thing hangs in the air of the longhouse, thicker than the smoke from the hearth. A few weeks pass, a tense and quiet time. Then, one afternoon, the dogs begin to bark, not the sharp, inquisitive bark for a passing neighbor, but a deep, sustained, frantic warning. Your brother, posted as a lookout more often than not these days, comes running down from the small hill behind the house. They are coming, he gasps, his face pale. Einar's banner. 12 men. It is not a raid. They are not running, not shouting. They are walking. A slow, deliberate procession. This is something else. Something fertile, and in its own way, more terrifying. Your father straightens up from the bench where he was mending a harness. He squares his shoulders, his face grim. Inside, he says to you and your mother, "Stay out of sight." You retreat into the dimness of the longhouse, your heart pounding against your ribs. You can't just sit and wait. You find a small crack in the heavy wooden wall, a gap between two logs, and press your eye to it. You can see the approaching party. Einar, the chieftain, is in the lead. Beside him walks his son, Olaf. He is dressed in his finest tunic, a vibrant blue wool with embroidered trim, and a heavy silver armband glints on his bicep. He looks pleased with himself, like a hunter approaching a trapped animal. This is it, the formal proposal, the culmination of all their pressure and maneuvering. They have weakened your father at the thing, demonstrated their power, and now they come to claim the prize. Your father meets them in the yard, in front of the house. He stands alone, a solitary figure against the backdrop of his home. He is not armed, save for the ever-present sea axe at his belt. It is a statement. This is a parley, not a battle. You can't hear the words clearly, just the low murmur of voices. Einar is doing the talking, his gestures expansive and confident. Your father stands like a stone, his arms crossed. He is listening. He has to. To refuse to even hear the offer would be a grave insult, an invitation for open conflict. This is the moment where the brutal pragmatism of your culture comes into sharp focus. A marriage proposal was not a private, romantic affair. It was a formal, legal negotiation, witnessed by others. The suitor would state his offer, which included the mundar, or bride price. This was not about buying a wife, a common misconception. It was a payment made to the bride's guardian, her father, or brother, as a compensation for transferring her legal protection and economic contribution to a new family. It was a sign of the suitor's wealth and seriousness. A high bride price brought honor to the bride's family. Einar is no doubt making a generous offer. He is a wealthy man. He will be offering silver, livestock, perhaps even a share in a future trading voyage. He is trying to make it an offer your father cannot refuse, not just because of the implied threat, but because of the sheer economic sense of it. To refuse such a price would seem foolish to many. The most stressful part for you, watching through the crack, is your own powerlessness. Your consent is not legally required. While a good father would certainly take his daughter's wishes into account, the final decision was his. The sagas are full of reluctant brides, women given in marriage to seal a peace treaty or forge an alliance against their will. Their happiness was a secondary consideration to the stability and prosperity of the family. But then there is the strange counterpoint, the concept of the love match. It existed. The poems and myths speak of it. There are runestone nests that were raised by a man in memory of his beloved wife. Historians debate whether these were the exceptions that proved the rule, or if genuine affection played a more significant role in marriage than the legalistic texts suggest. Was the ideal a marriage that was both strategically sound and emotionally resonant? Perhaps. But right now, you are faced with a proposal that is all strategy and no heart. You watch as your father finally speaks. His voice is calm, but it carries to you. He is refusing. You can't hear the exact words, but the tone is unmistakable. He is thanking Einar for the honor of his offer, but he is declining. A tense silence falls over the yard. Einar's confident posture stiffens. Olafest's smirk vanishes, replaced by a dark scowl of disbelief and fury. He takes a step forward, his hand dropping to his sword, but his father puts out an arm to stop him. Einar says something more, his voice hardened low. It sounds like a threat, a final warning. Your father does not waver. He simply shakes his head. To refuse such a powerful man, to his face, in front of his retainers, it is an act of incredible bravery, or incredible foolishness. Your father has chosen his family's honor and your well-being over the politically expedient path. He has thrown the gauntlet back at Einar. The delegation turns, their movements stiff with anger. As they walk away, Olaf looks back over his shoulder. He stares directly at the longhouse, directly at the crack where he must know you are hiding. His eyes are filled with a cold, murderous promise. This is no longer a game of politics and pressure. Your father's refusal has made it personal. The rejection has not saved you. It has only escalated the danger to a new, terrifying level. The formal path has been closed. Now, only the informal, violent paths remain. The air in the longhouse feels different after the refusal. The unspoken threat has now been given a voice. Your father's decision, an act of love and defiance, has also signed a contract for future trouble. It is in this heavy silence that your mother sits you down to explain the mechanics of what was just offered. She speaks not of love or happiness, but of wealth, joy, and ownership. She talks about the mundar. What Einar offered your father was a high price, she says, her hands busy mending a tear in your brother's tunic. Her movements methodical and calm. 20 marks of silver, he said, and 50 head of cattle. It is an enormous sum, far more than your family's entire net worth. It was a deliberately overwhelming offer, designed to make your father's refusal look like the act of a madman. You must understand what this money is. Your mother continues, her eyes focused on her needlework. It is not a price for you, like a sack of grain. It is a price for your father's guardianship. When a woman marries, she leaves her father's protection, her burnti, and enters her husband's. The mandar is the payment for that transfer. It acknowledges the value you brought to this household, a value that will now be given to another. This is a critical, and often misunderstood, aspect of Viking society. The bride price did not make you property. In fact, the woman came with her own wealth, the hymenefwalgia, or dowry. This was property she brought into the marriage from her own family, things like jewelry, household goods, livestock, and sometimes even land. This property remained hers. If the husband died, or if they divorced, she took it with her. It was a measure of her own economic standing and a source of her security. A little-known detail that highlights this is that a husband couldn't sell off his wife's dowry land without her consent. It provided a woman with a degree of economic independence that was quite unusual for the time. So, a marriage was a complex financial merger. The groom's family paid the mandar to the bride's father, while the bride's family provided her with a hymenefwalgia that she personally controlled. Einar's offer was an insult disguised as a compliment. Your mother says, pulling the thread tight, he offered a price so high that it was meant to highlight our poverty in comparison. It was meant to make your father feel small, to make him feel that he had no right to a daughter of such value. The transaction, then, was all about the men. It was a negotiation of status and honor between your father and your suitor. You are the subject of the transaction, the most important piece on the board. But you are not the one making the moves. Your value is being debated, but your voice is not part of the discussion. And what if he had accepted? You ask, the words barely a whisper. Your mother sighs, finally putting down her sewing. She looks at you, her expression weary. Then you would have been Beatrice. A formal agreement would have been made, sealed with oath and handshakes in front of witnesses. From that moment, you would be promised to Olaf. To break a betrothal was a serious matter, a deep dishonor that could easily lead to violence. She explains that once betrothed, you would be under Olaf's legal protection as well as your father's. Any offense against you would be an offense against both men. And then, at an agreed-upon date, the wedding feast, the BRUTKAL, would take place. This was the main event, a multi-day celebration that finalized the union. It was here that your husband would publicly give you the keys to the household. Then the marriage would be consummated, making it legally binding. This is the point where historians still argue about the nuances. The law codes lay out the formal process, the proposal, the betrothal, the feast. But how much of this was just a rubber stamp on a reality already decided by force and ambition? The sagas are filled with men who see a woman they desire and simply state, I shall have her, and then set about removing any obstacles, including her current husband or uncooperative father. The law was the ideal. The reality was often much messier. Your father refused the price, your mother says, her voice softening. He refused the honor and the wealth. He chose you over the safety that alliance would have brought. He has kept you in his Verndi. She picks up her sewing again, but you see that her hand is trembling slightly. And in doing so, she adds quietly, he has made us all a target. Einar and his son were publicly shamed. They made a generous offer, and a poor farmer had the audacity to refuse them. They cannot let that stand. Their honor demands a response. You look at your own hands. You think of the dowry you would have brought to a marriage, a few good cloaks, a silver brooch from your grandmother, your skill at the loom. It seems so small, so insignificant compared to the great, violent games of men. The mundar, the bride price, was not for you, but it defined your fate. It was a number placed on your head by man, and your father's refusal to accept that number has now put a price on all of your heads, one that may have to be paid in blood. The days that follow your father's refusal are stretched thin with a quiet, humming tension. Every snap of a twig in the woods, every dog that barks in the distance, sends a jolt through the household. Life continues, because it must. The cows must be milked. The fire must be tended. The endless cycle of chores does not pause for fear, but it all happens under a sky that feels heavier than before. You live in the calm eye of a storm you know is churning just over the horizon. Then, on a day that seems no different from any other, the storm arrives. The air is still and carries the scent of low tide of salt, seaweed, and wet stone. You are down by the edge of the fjord, not far from your home, gathering mussels from the rocks. The water is a sheet of gray glass, reflecting the overcast sky. It is peaceful. The only sounds are the cry of a distant gull and the gentle lapping of the water against the shore. It is your brother who sees it first. He has been spending most of his days on the high ridge that overlooks the sea entrance to the fjord. As self-appointed sentinel, you hear it before you see it. The sound of the horn. It is not the cheerful blast used to call men in from the fields. This is a long, desperate, mournful sound, thy warning It echoes across the water, seeming to hang in the motionless air. Your head snaps up. You scan the horizon, your eyes tracing the narrow channel that leads to the open sea. At first, you see nothing. Then, a shape. A dark sliver sliding around the far headland. It is low to the water, impossibly sleek. A single, large, square, sail, stark against the gray sky, and as it draws closer, your blood runs cold. From its prow rears a carved and painted head, a snarling dragon, its teeth bared as if to devour the sea itself. A Viking longship, and behind it, another, and another. 3 of them. They are not from your region. The carvings are unfamiliar. The shields lining the gunwales painted in patterns you do not recognize. These ships were the apex predators of your world. Their design was a marvel of naval engineering. The secret was their flexible hull and shallow draft. They could ride the open ocean waves and then, without warning, turn up a shallow river, penetrating deep inland to strike at settlements that thought themselves safe from sea raiders. A longship could appear as if from nowhere, disgorge 100 screaming warriors, and then vanish before any real defense could be mounted. This was the source of the terror they inspired across the known world. For a heart-stopping moment, there is a flicker of hope. Some ships were raiders. It was a strange duality of the Viking Age. The same men who sailed to raid and plunder one coast might sail to another to peacefully trade furs and amber. Historians still discuss this fluid identity, the raider-trader. It is possible these are just merchants seeking a safe harbor. But then you see it. A chillingly simple detail. The dragon heads on the prows are raised. It was a known custom, a piece of maritime etiquette, to lower or remove the terrifying figureheads when approaching a friendly port, so as not to frighten the local spirits or appear aggressive. The fact that these heads are up, snarling at you shore, is a clear and unambiguous declaration of intent. This is not a trading visit. The horn blows again from the ridge, more frantic this time. In the village, you can hear shouts, the sound of panic beginning to stir. You are frozen on the shoreline, the small basket of mussels forgotten in your hand. The ships are moving with terrifying speed, their oars now deployed and flashing in and out of the water with practiced, inhuman synchronicity. They are not heading for the main village landing. They are heading for the beach, directly in front of your family as land. The target is specific. It is a question historians still debate. What was the primary motivation for these raids? Was it the portable wealth, the silver from a church, the arm rings from a chieftain's hoard? Or was it the human cargo? The sagas and chronicles are filled with accounts of raiders carrying off people. Men and women were captured and sold as slaves. The thralls who worked the farms and served the households back in Scandinavia. But beautiful women were a different category of prize altogether. They were not just loot. They were status symbols. Potential wives or concubines who could bring prestige to their captor. Suddenly, you understand with a sickening certainty. Olaf's public humiliation did not just invite local trouble. News travels. A story of a famously beautiful girl, whose farmer father was bold enough to refuse a powerful chieftain, would be a tempting tale for any predatory ear. Had Olaf, in his rage, let the story slip to a visiting sea captain, or had the story simply grown wings of its own? It doesn't matter. The result is the same. The shadows on the fjord are no longer metaphorical. They are long, wooden, and filled with armed men. They are real. Then they are coming for you. The abstract danger that has haunted your life has just been given a keel in the dragon's head, and it is about to run aground on your shore. The world dissolves into chaos. The peaceful lapping of the fjord is replaced by the grating crunch of keels on gravel and the thunder of dozens of feet hitting the shore. The raiders swarm from the long ships, a wave of violence and noise. They are a terrifying sight, a deliberate spectacle of intimidation. Some wear iron helmets, conical or spectacle-like, that obscure their faces, making them seem inhuman. Many carry round shields, brightly painted. Their weapons are a brutal collection of axes, spears, and swords. You are no longer thinking. Instinct takes over. You drop your basket and run. Your feet, there on the cold, damp earth, find a desperate rhythm. You run towards the longhouse, towards the only sanctuary you have ever known. You can hear them behind you. Their shouts a mixture of Norse dialects you barely recognize. This is a key detail often lost in the monolithic image of the Vikings. They were not a single, unified people. They were Danes, Swedes, Norwegians, men from different fjords and islands, each group with its own chieftains, laws, and ambitions. The men storming your farmstead were as foreign to you as they were to the people of England or France. You glance back for a split second and see them fanning out. They are efficient. A few run towards the longhouse, but most head for the livestock pens. Others are forming a loose perimeter. This is not a frenzied, mindless attack. It is a practiced, methodical operation, a business. Your father and brothers are there, rushing out of the house to meet them. They are hopelessly outnumbered. Your father holds a heavy-bladed Dane axe, a formidable weapon, but he is one man against a tide. Your two older brothers have spears. They form a small, desperate triangle of defense in the yard. This is the brutal reality of a raid. It was not a battle of armies, but a violent assault on a homestead. The primary objective was profit, which meant minimizing risk. Raiders preferred to strike soft targets, isolated farms, poorly defended monasteries, small villages. The goal was to get in, take everything of value, and get out before any organized resistance could be mounted. You reach the longhouse, your lungs burning. Your mother pulls you inside, her face a mask of terror. She shoves you towards the back, towards the darkest, smokiest end of the hall where the animals are sometimes kept. Hide, she commands, her voice a raw whisper. She grabs an old, greasy sheepskin from a pile and throws it over you. Don't move. Don't make a sound. You curl into a tight ball, hidden in the straw and the shadows. The foul-smelling fleece scratching your face. You can hear everything. The splintering crash as the raiders smash through the reinforced door. The shouts of your father. A defiant roar of rage. The clash of steel on steel. The terrible, wet thud of an axe finding its mark. They scream. Cut short. The raiders are in the house now. You can hear their heavy footsteps on the packed earth floor. They are shouting to each other, their voices echoing in the vast space. They are ransacking the place, tossing benches, smashing storage chests. You hear the clatter of your mother's loom being overturned. The sound is a physical blow, a violation of the sacred order of your home. This is what they came for. The portable wealth, silver arm rings, stored grain, tools, weapons, fine cloaks. But the most valuable commodities were alive. Historians using modern DNA analysis have been able to trace the movement of people during this era, confirming the vast scale of the Viking slave trade. Genetic markers from the British Isles, for example, are found in Icelandic populations, a stark testament to the women who were taken as slaves or wives and forced to build new lives hundreds of miles from their homes. From beneath the sheepskin, You can see flashes of movement through the gaps in the fleece. A pair of leather-clad legs strides past your hiding place. A man grunts as he hoists a sack of your family's grain onto his shoulder. Another is arguing with a comrade over a small, carved wooden box when your father kept his few silver coins in. Then, a new voice cuts through the chaos. It is deeper, more commanding. The other men fall silent. This must be the leader. He gives a series of sharp orders. You can't understand all the words, but the meaning is clear. They have got what they came for. It is time to go. You hold your breath, your body rigid with fear. Maybe they will miss you. Maybe they will take their loot and leave. You are just a small, motionless lump in the darkest corner of a smoky hall. But then the leader speaks again. A single question that makes your heart stop. You don't need to understand the dialect to know what he is asking. He is asking where the girl is. The famous beauty. The real prize of this entire bloody enterprise. The search begins. The world under the sheepskin is a suffocating mix of wool, grease, dust, in your own terrified breath. The sounds outside your flimsy refuge change. The frantic ransacking ceases, replaced by a more deliberate, methodical search. Heavy boots tread slowly now, methodically covering every inch of the longhouse floor. Chests are not just smashed but kicked aside. Piles of furs and bedding are stabbed with spear points. They are not just looking, they are hunting. You hear your mother cry out. A sharp command from the leader. Silence. You risk a tiny movement, shifting the fleece just enough to peer out with one eye. Two waiters are holding your mother, her arms pinned behind her back. The leader stands before her. He is a mountain of a man, with a thick, braided beard and eyes as pale and cold as winter ice. He is not wearing a helmet. He doesn't need to. His authority is absolute. He asks your mother a question, his voice low and dangerous. She shakes her head, her jaw set, tears streaming down her face but her expression defiant. He sighs, an impatient, frustrated sound. He nods to one of his men. The man walks over to the central hearth, where the embers of the morning fire still glow. He picks up a long, wooden stick, pushes one end into the coals, and blows on it until it catches, sputtering into a small, flickering flame. He has made a torch. The flame illuminates the dark corners of the hall, chasing the shadows away. Your refuge is about to be exposed. The light dances across the walls, across the overturned benches, and it is moving inexorably closer to you. This is the moment, the hinge upon which the rest of your life will turn. You are no longer an abstract concept, a rumor of beauty that traveled on the wind. You are a physical object to be located and seized. The leader's gaze sweeps the room, following the path of the torchlight. He is a professional. He knows people hide. His eyes pass over the pile of discarded fleeces where you are huddled. For a heartbeat, you think he has missed you. His gaze moves on, but then he stops. He squints, his head tilting slightly. What has he seen? A slight lump that seems out of place. The almost imperceptible movement of your breathing. Or is it something else? Historians and archaeologists have a term, conspicuous consumption. It refers to the way elites display their wealth and status. In the Viking Age, this often meant lavish jewelry, fine imported fabrics, and decorated weapons. That a beautiful woman, especially one captured from a rival, was the ultimate the symbol. She was living, breathing proof of a man's power, his reach, and his ability to take and hold whatever he desired. This is what the leader is looking for. Not a person, but the crowning jewel for his collection of plunder. His eyes snap back to your hiding place. He takes 2 long strides and, with the tail of his beard, he flips the sheepskin off you. The sudden light is blinding. The cold air is a shock. You are exposed, blinking up at the giant figures looming over you. Their faces lit from below by the torchlight, turning them into monstrous masks. The leader looks down at you. For a long moment, he says nothing. His cold eyes appraise you, the same way Olaf did at the thing, but without any pretense of civility. It is a look of pure assessment and ownership. He is comparing the reality of you to the rumor he heard. You see a flicker of something in his eyes. Satisfaction. He found what he came for. He turns his head slightly and says a single word to his men. It sounds like a confirmation. Her. Then he smiles. It is not a pleasant expression. It is a smile of triumph, of a successful hunt. The rumors were real. The prize is as valuable as he was told. This is the strange, cruel paradox of your situation. Your beauty, the very thing that made you a target, has now, in the eyes of your captor, justified the violence. It confirms that the raid was a worthwhile venture. The blood shed in your yard, the destruction of your home, it was all a sound business investment. Your face is the proof of profit. He reaches down, his hand closing around your upper arm. His grip is like iron. He pulls you to your feet as if you weigh nothing. You stumble, your legs weak with fear. He doesn't care. He begins to drag you towards the shattered doorway, out into the gray daylight. You risk one last, desperate look back. You see your mother, her face a canvas of anguish, still held by the 2 raiders. Her eyes meet yours, and in them, you see a universe of love and despair. She has failed to protect you. Her island lessons, her fortress of domesticity, were no match for a dozen armed men. The world outside the fence, the Utengard has crashed in and obliterated her carefully tended inner world. As you are dragged out of the darkness of your home and into the chaos of the yard, you realize the truth. Your beauty was never a gift. It was a beacon. It was a signal fire that drew these ships across the sea. It was a landmark on a treasure map. And X marked the spot right where your home used to be. The world outside the longhouse is a scene of finality. The brief, brutal violence is over. The bodies of your father and brothers lie still in the yard, stark and terrible against the green of the grass. The raiders are moving with purpose now, hauling their plunder sacks of grain, squawking chickens in crates. Your father soared down to the waiting ships. The air smells of blood and smoke from the torch that used to find you. You are not the only captive. A few of the farmhands, young men strong enough to be valuable as slaves, are being herded towards the shore, their hands bound. But you are treated differently. You are not roped together with the others. The leader himself keeps his grip on your arm, pulling you along. You are not just bulk cargo. You are the special acquisition. He shoves you towards one of the long ships, the largest of the 3, the one with the most fearsome dragon head. You stumble at the water's edge, the icy cold of the fjord shocking your bare feet. A plank has been laid from the shore to the ship's gunwale. He pushes you onto it. You scramble across, your eyes fixed on the wooden plank, refusing to look back at the devastation of your home. To look back is to break completely. Once on board, you are pushed down onto a sea chest near the stern, the part of the ship reserved for the captain. The raiders are finishing their loading, shouting back and forth. The sounds are a meaningless jumble to your shocked senses. You are surrounded by a sea of rough, bearded men, their faces flushed with victory, their bodies smelling of sweat, soaked in violence. This is your new reality. Deep-land, open boat, crowded with killers and thieves. The ship itself is a marvel of brutal efficiency. It is surprisingly narrow, designed for speed above all else. There is no shelter, no cabin. Everything happens out in the open, exposed to the elements. The men will sleep on the same chests they are now stowing their gear in. They will eat cold, salted fish and hard bread. It is a harsh, unforgiving environment. The leader, your captor, stands at the tiller, shouting orders. The last of the men jump aboard. With great, rhythmic heaves, they push off from the shore using long poles. The ship slides backwards into the deeper water. The great square sail is unfurled, catching the wind with a loud THWUMP. The ship lurches, turns, and begins to move, leading your home, your life, behind you. You are now, in the eyes of these men, a frillet, a concubine, or perhaps the leader intends to make you his wife, that eat you as Freja. The distinction is legally significant but, for you, practically meaningless at this moment. A wife had more rights and her children were legitimate heirs. A concubine had little status, but both were dependent on the will of the man who possessed them. The sagas are filled with chieftains who have both a wife and one or more concubines, often captives from raids. It was a common practice, another way to display wealth and power. Whether you will be a wife or a concubine is a question for later. For now, you are a spoil of war. You have been taken in a practice that historians, with chilling neutrality, sometimes call bride capture. It was a recognized, if violent and dishonorable, way of acquiring a wife across many ancient cultures. By taking you by force, the leader has bypassed all negotiation, all social niceties. His claim is based on a single, undeniable fact. He was strong enough to take you. A strange and grim detail of this practice is that, in some Norse legal traditions, a marriage formed by abduction could eventually be considered legitimate if the woman's kind did not rescue her or seek vengeance within a certain time frame, usually 3 years. The law, in its brutal pragmatism, essentially had a statute of limitations on outrage. If a family was too weak to act, the world eventually moved on and accepted the new reality. Your captivity is a clock, ticking against your family's honor. You sit huddled on the chest, a small, still point in the bustling activity of the ship. The men are mostly ignoring you now. The prize is secured. They are sailors and warriors, focused on the task of navigating the fjord. You pull your knees to your chest, wrapping your arms around them, making yourself as small as possible. The coastline of your home slides by, a familiar landscape of rocks and trees now rendered alien and remote. You see the ridge where your brother stood watch. You see the smoke still trickling from the roof of your longhouse. And then, as the ship rounds a bend, it is all gone. The leader comes over to you. He hands you a heavy wool cloak. Coarse and smelling of him, it is a gesture that could be interpreted as kindness, but it feels more like a farmer covering a valuable horse against the rain. He says something to you, his voice not as harsh as before. You don't understand the words, but the tone is one of possession. He is not speaking to a person. He is speaking to his property. You are now what the old Norse sagas call a herf, being a war booty. You have no name. You have no family. You have no home. Your identity has been stripped away, replaced by a single, stark label. You belong to him. The ship cuts through the gray water, tearing you away from everything you have ever known, towards a future you cannot imagine, a future dictated by the will of the man who now owns you. The journey is a blur of misery. The seas are vast, heaving expanse of gray and green, indifferent to your suffering. Days and nights blend into one another, marked only by the changing light. You are constantly cold, perpetually damp from the sea spray, and rocked by the endless, nauseating motion of the ship. You exist in a small bubble of isolation. The crew, a roughened, boisterous lot, largely leaves you alone. You are the chieftain's prize, and to interfere with you would be to challenge him directly. They talk around you, their voices loud, their laughter harsh. They feast on their plunder, roasting some of the chickens from your farm over a small firebox in the center of the ship. They drink ale from horns. You are given your share of food, dry, salted fish and hard, stale bread, but you eat with no appetite, the taste of ashes in your mouth. Your captor, the chieftain whose name you eventually learn is Bjorn, treats you with a detached sort of proprietary care. He makes sure you are fed. He ensures you have the warmest spot to sleep, near the stern. But he does not talk to you as a person. His interactions are minimal, functional. He is a man who has acquired a valuable object and is now transporting it home. In the long, desolate hours, your mind cycles through a desperate, frantic loop. Will they come for you? This is the only hope to which you can cling. The hope of rescue, the hope of vengeance. In your world, this was the primary form of justice. An offense against one member of a family was an offense against the entire kin group. The duty to avenge a slain relative or a captured kinsman was a sacred, binding obligation. This is the concept of blood feud, a cycle of retaliatory violence that could span generations. You picture your uncles, your cousins, the men of your village. Surely, they will not let this stand. Surely, they will gather their forces, take to their own ships, and hunt these raiders down. The sagas are filled with such stories of daring rescue missions, of sons avenging their fathers, of families reclaiming their stolen honor. But as the days wear on, a cold, hard reality begins to seep into your despair. Your family was not powerful. Your father was a carle, a freeman, respected but not a man of great wealth or influence. Your uncles and cousins are men like him. They have small farms, perhaps a fishing boat. They do not have dragon-headed long ships. They do not have a company of seasoned warriors. And who would they even pursue? You don't know where you are going. These men are strangers. Their home could be a week's sail away, in any direction. The sea is immense, a trackless wilderness. The logistics of a rescue mission would be staggering. This is the helplessness of the law made real. The law code might say your abduction is a crime. Your family might be honor-bound to seek redress. But the law has no navy. Honor has no fleet. Justice, in its rawest form, is a matter of resources. It is a luxury of the strong. It's a question historians grapple with constantly. How much of the dramatic vengeance described in the sagas was historical reality, and how much was literary embellishment? The sagas were written down centuries after the events they describe, often to flatter the ancestors of the powerful Icelandic chieftains who commissioned them. It is likely they represent an idealized version of the honor code. For every celebrated tale of successful revenge, there were probably 100 unrecorded tragedies, like yours, an abduction that went unanswered, a murder that went unavenged, because the victim's family simply lacked the power to retaliate. One evening, as the sun bleeds into the horizon, Bjorn comes to sit near you. He offers you a drink of mead from his own horn. You refuse, shaking your head. He shrugs, unbothered. He looks out at the sea, at the fading light. You are from Hordaland, he says. It is a statement, not a question. His dialect is different from yours. but you understand the name of your own home region. You just stare at him, silent. My mother was from there, he says, his gaze distant, taken in a raid. When my father was a young man, he takes a long drink from the horn. She never saw it again. He is not telling you this to be cruel. He is telling you this to be clear. He is telling you his own origin story. A story founded on an act of violence, just like the one he has perpetrated against you. He is showing you how normal this is, how the world works. He is the product of a previous abduction. To him, this is not a monstrous crime. It is the cycle of life. It is how strong lineages are forged. He is offering you, in his own brutal way, a vision of your future. You will be his wife, or his concubine. You will bear him children. They will grow up hearing the story of how their beautiful mother was captured in a daring raid, and they will see it not as a tragedy, but as proof of their father's strength. In that moment, the last, flickering ember of hope for rescued eyes within you, there will be no fleet of avenging kinsmen on the horizon. Your old life is not paused. It is over. You are utterly, terrifyingly alone, adrift on a sea of violence. Your fate now tied to the man who destroyed your world. The law is a distant memory, a story told by old men on land. Out here, the only law is the strength of the arm that holds the sword, and the will of the man who holds the tiller. After what feels like an eternity, land appears on the horizon. Not the familiar green hills and deep fjords of your home, but a coastline that is lower, rockier, more unforgiving. This is Bjorn's kingdom. As the ships navigate a complex channel between jagged skerries, you see the settlement. It is larger than your village, more fortified. It sits at the head of a well-protected bay. A timber palisade, a wall of sharpened logs, surrounds a collection of longhouses. This is not just a farm. It is a chieftain's seat, a base of operations, the source of the power that reached across the sea to ruin your life. The arrival is a triumphant spectacle, as your ship, the lead vessel, glides towards the wooden jetty. People pour out from the settlement to greet them. They cheer. They are not cheering a crime. They are celebrating a successful business venture. The raiders have returned, and they have returned with wealth. Bjorn stands proudly at the stern, his hand once again on your arm. He is displaying you. You are the centerpiece of his victory, the living proof of his success. You keep your eyes down, fixed on the wooden deck, but you can feel the dozens, hundreds, of curious eyes on you. You hear the murmurs ripple through the crowd. They have heard the rumors. Now they see the prize. You are lead off the ship and through the gate in the palisade. Inside, the chieftain's longhouse is immense, far larger than your father's home. It is a hall built for power, designed to accommodate 100 warriors. Carved dragon heads snarl down from the roof beams. The wealth here is palpable in the fine tapestries hanging on the walls, in the glint of silver from a chieftain's high seat, in the sheer number of people bustling about. You are taken to a small, windowless room partitioned off at one end of the longhouse. It contains a bed platform piled with fine furs and a single wooden chest. This is to be your space, your cage. In the days that follow, you'll learn the rhythms of your new existence. You are treated not with overt cruelty, but with a stifling, suffocating possession. You are Bjorn's woman. He gives you fine clothes, a gown of deep red wool, a cloak lined with fox fur. He gifts you jewelry, a heavy silver necklace, delicate glass beads from a faraway land. These are not gifts of affection. They are marks of ownership. He is dressing his prize, displaying his wealth upon your body. You are a walking testament to his prosperity. You are For all intents and purposes, a prisoner in a gilded cage. You do not work. The household is run by another woman, Björn's first wife, a stern, sharp-eyed woman named Runa who watches you with undisguised hostility. She holds the keys to the household. She manages the thralls, the food stores, the weaving. She is the HUS Freja, the true lady of the house. You are something else, a beautiful, useless ornament, an affront to her status. This complex domestic arrangement is something the sagas hint at but rarely detail. How did these households function with multiple high-status women, one a legitimate wife and others captured concubines? Historians speculate about the intense rivalries and political maneuvering that must have occurred within the walls of the longhouse. The home was not a refuge from the world of politics and violence. It was a microcosm of it. Runa ensures you are isolated. The other women in the household, following her lead, speak to you only when necessary. Their words clipped and cold. The thralls, the slaves who do the hardest labor, look at you with a mixture of pity and fear. They were also captured, torn from their homes, but your beauty sets you apart, making your captivity both more comfortable and more perilous. You learn to be silent, to be observant. You watch Björn hold court from his high seat, dispensing judgments, rewarding his warriors, planning his next venture. You see the raw mechanics of his power, the loyalty he commands, the fear he inspires. He is a king in this small, violent world, and you are his most recent acquisition. One of the strangest and most debated aspects of your situation is the question of children. If you were to bear Björn a son, what would his status be? The laws were murky and often contradictory. Generally, the child of a legitimate wife, the HUS Freja, was the primary heir, but the sons of favored concubines, especially if the wife had no sons, could often rise to prominence. A son could be a pathway to power and security for a captured woman. It could also be another chain, binding her more tightly to her captor's lineage. You spend your days in your small room, or sitting silently in the main hall, a passive observer. You are surrounded by life, by noise, by activity, that you are utterly alone. The fine clothes feel like a costume. The jewelry feels like a collar. Every comfort is a reminder of your captivity. You often find yourself touching the silver necklace Björn gave you. It is heavy and cold. You think of your mother's hands, rough and calloused from the loom. You think of the simple wooden bowl you used to eat from. You think of the smell of the hearth in your own home. You are living in a longhouse filled with more wealth than you have ever seen. Yet, you have never been poor. You are a queen with no kingdom, a mistress with no power, a beautiful woman who has become nothing more than a beautiful object. Life in Björn's hall settles into a monotonous rhythm, the gilded prison of long, empty days. You are a ghost at the feast, a silent presence by the fire. Then, the rhythm is broken. The ship arrives. Not a reading vessel, but a single, sleek trading ship bearing the banner of a neighboring chieftain. His name is Harald, and he is Björn's ally, and also his chief rival. A great feast is called to welcome him. The longhouse, already a loud and bustling place, is thrown into a frenzy of preparation. The thralls slaughter a pig. Great vats of ale are brought up from the storehouse. The air thrums with a nervous, festive energy. Björn is in his element, eager to display his prosperity to his rival. You are expected to be part of that display. Runa, Björn's wife, supervises your preparation with a cold, critical eye. You are dressed in your finest gown, the one made of imported blue cloth that shimmers in the firelight. The heavy silver necklace is clasped around your neck. Your hair is unbraided, uncombed until it shines. A cascade down your back. You are being prepared like a prize animal for show. The feast begins. The hall is packed with warriors from both households. Their voices a deafening roar. They drink heavily, boast of their exploits, and tear into the roasted pork with their knives and hands. Bjorn sits at the high seat, the place of honor, with his guest, Harold, beside him. Rune sits on a chair to his other side. You are seated on a bench just below them, close enough to be seen. A clear and deliberate statement of your status as Bjorn's prize. Harold is younger than Bjorn, leaner, with a fox-like sharpness to his face. Where Bjorn's power is a blunt instrument, Harold's seems to be something sharper, more cunning. As the night wears on and the ale flows, you notice his gaze keeps returning to you. It is not the predatory stare of Olaf, nor the possessive appraisal of Bjorn. It is something different. It is calculating. He looks at you, then at Bjorn, then back at you. He is not just seeing a beautiful woman. He is seeing a weakness in his rival's armor. He is seeing an asset. In the testosterone-fueled environment of the Viking Hall, women were often the subjects of boasts and the objects of competitive desire. The sagas are full of scenes where men fight over women, or where the beauty of a woman is used to praise her husband or to taunt his enemies. A beautiful wife was a reflection of a man's success. Stealing such a wife, either by force or by seduction, was the ultimate act of humiliation against a rival. This practice, sometimes called wife stealing, was a recurring theme, a source of endless conflict and bloodshed. You feel a new kind of fear, one that is cold and intellectual. You are no longer just a passive prize. You are becoming an active piece in a political game between two powerful men. Your presence here, intended to be a symbol of Bjorn's strength, could very well become the catalyst for its downfall. Later in the evening, under the guise of refiling his drinking horn, Harold pauses by your bench. The roar of the feast provides a curtain of noise. He keeps his treasures closely guarded. He says, his voice a low murmur meant only for you. His eyes glitter with a mixture of admiration and ambition. You say nothing. You have learned that silence is your only shield. You keep your gaze fixed on the fire. He smiles, a thin, knowing smile. But even the strongest dragon sleeps, and treasures are meant to be won, not just found. The comment is dangerously ambiguous. Is he complimenting you? Is he threatening Bjorn? Is he making a veiled offer to you? It is impossible to say, but the implication is clear. He has recognized your value not just as an object of beauty, but as a political tool. You are the chink in Bjorn's armor, the prize that could be used to provoke him, humiliate him, or lure him into a fatal conflict. This is a recurring debate among historians. To what extent were women like you pawns? And to what extent were they players? The official histories, written by men, often portray women as passive objects of male conflict. But a closer reading of the sagas and poems reveals women who were active agents, using their influence, their beauty, and their wits to navigate the treacherous currents of power. The legendary Sigrid the Haughty, for example, was said to have burned a suitor alive for his insolent proposal, while likely an exaggeration. It speaks to a cultural understanding of women as capable of fierce and independent action. You are not Sigrid the Haughty. You have no army, no wealth of your own. But in that moment, as Harold walks away, you feel a subtle shift in the balance of power. For the first time since your capture, you have been addressed as someone with a mind, with agency. Harald, these words, as unsettling as they are, were not directed at Bjorn's property. They were directed at you. You look across the hall at Bjorn. He is laughing, his arm thrown around another warrior, oblivious to the quiet exchange that has just taken place. He sees you as his possession, a beautiful thing to be displayed. He is blind to the possibility that his prize has a will of its own. Harald, the fox, has seen it, and that knowledge, that recognition, is the most dangerous and perhaps the most powerful thing you have acquired since you lost your freedom. The feast continues for 3 days. The marathon of drinking and boasting. The fragile alliance between Bjorn and Harald is stretched thin by ale and ego. The air in the longhouse grows heavy with unspoken rivalry. You have become the focal point of this tension, a silent mirror reflecting the men's ambitions and insecurities. The breaking point comes on the final night. The hall is thick with smoke and the smell of spilled ale. The warriors are drunk, their inhibitions worn away. Bjorn, his face flushed with mead, decides to engage in a round of formal boasting, a common feasting ritual. He stands up, pounds his chest, and bellows about the raid that brought him so much silver, and he says with a grand gesture towards you, the fairest jewel in the north. He is praising you, but it feels like he is polishing a trophy in front of his guest. He is using your beauty as a measure of his own prowess. This was a common, if risky, social display. The man's honor was tied to the honor of his wife and female kin. To praise your wife's beauty was to praise yourself, but it was also an invitation for others to comment. Harald, who has been drinking steadily but seems to have lost none of his cunning, rises to the challenge. He raises his drinking horn in a mock toast. A fine jewel. Indeed, he says, his voice carrying across the suddenly quiet hall. So fine, it is a wonder it was found lying in the dirt of a poor farmer's yard. The insult is exquisite in its cruelty. It is delivered with a smile, wrapped in the guise of a compliment. But everyone in the hall understands its true meaning. Harald is not just insulting your origins. He is insulting Bjorn's victory. He is implying that taking you was no great feat of arms, but a cheap and easy prize, like picking up a lost coin. He is questioning the very foundation of the prestige Bjorn hopes to gain from possessing you. A wave of shock washes through the hall. This is more than a drunken jab. This is a formal, public challenge to Bjorn's honor. In the world of the sagas, such an insult, known as a NID, was a profound offense. It was a form of verbal weapon, designed to humiliate and provoke. Some forms of NID were so serious they were outlawed, and to utter one was to risk being killed on the spot with no legal consequence. Bjorn's face darkens. The drunken good humor evaporates, replaced by a cold, murderous rage. His hand goes to the hilt of the sword at his side. You will take that back, fox, he growls, his voice low and dangerous. Harald just smiles, a slow, insolent smile. Why, it is the truth. Great warriors win their prizes from other great warriors. They do not steal trinkets from peasants. He has laid the trap perfectly. He has used your beauty and the story of your capture as a weapon to make Bjorn look weak and dishonorable in his own hall, in front of his own men. If Bjorn backs down, his authority is diminished. If he fights, Harald has succeeded in provoking a conflict he clearly desires. You are sitting on your bench, frozen. The entire roaring feast has shrunk to this single, terrible point of tension, and you are at its center. You are the jewel, the trinket. Your life story has been weaponized. You are no longer even an object. You are a metaphor in a deadly argument between two men. It is a topic of endless debate among scholars. How much of the violence in Viking society was spontaneous, and how much was ritualized or strategic? Were these mead-hall brawls simply the result of too much alcohol, or were they calculated political acts? Harald Death's insult feels anything but spontaneous. It is a precisely aimed dart, designed for maximum impact. Huna, Bjorn's wife, is watching the scene with a strange, intense expression. There is fear in her eyes, but also a flicker of something else. A grim satisfaction. Perhaps she sees this as the inevitable, destructive consequence of Bjorn bringing you into her home. Your dangerous beauty was bound to ignite a fire, and now the hall itself is ready to burn. Bjorn shoves the table in front of him, sending drinking horns and plates crashing to the floor. He stands to his full height, his face contorted with fury. "No man calls me a thief in my own hall," he roars. Harald, in response, calmly draws his own sword, its polished surface gleaming in the firelight. His men, who had been waiting for this signal, get to their feet, their own weapons suddenly in hand. Across the hall, Bjorn's warriors do the same. The feast is over. The time for words has passed. The insult, hanging in the smoky air, demands a reply in blood. The friendly rivalry has curdled into open hostility, and the longhouse is about to become a slaughterhouse. And it all began with a comment about you, the beautiful prize who has now become the cause of a war. The longhouse erupts. The roar of the feast is replaced by the shriek of steel and the guttural shouts of men locked in combat. What was a hall of celebration moments before is now a chaotic, swirling melee. Benches are overturned to be used as shields, and slip on spilled Dayland blood. The fire in the central hearth casts long, frantic shadows that dance on the walls like warring giants. You are thrown back against the wall as the fight surges around the high seat. Runa, Bjorn's wife, grabs your arm with a surprising strength and pulls you with her towards the partitioned-off domestic area at the end of the hall. It is an act not of kindness, but of self-preservation. In the chaos, you are a liability, and she is securing the household. The women and children are screaming, huddling together in the storage rooms, away from the violence, from the relative safety of the doorway. You can see the battle unfold. It is not a clean, honorable duel. It is a brutal, chaotic brawl. Men are fighting with swords, axes, and even heavy drinking horns and pieces of furniture. This is the reality of close-quarters combat, a terrifying and confusing nightmare of noise and violence. Bjorn and Harald are at the center of it, a whirlwind of rage. They are locked in a desperate struggle, their swords ringing against each other. Bjorn is stronger, a berserker fueled by fury and insulted pride. Harald is quicker, more agile, a fencer looking for an opening. Their personal conflict has become the vortex around which the entire brawl spins. A man from Harald's retinue, his face a mask of blood, stumbles backwards and falls near you. One of Bjorn's warriors stands over him, raising a heavy axe for a final blow. The axe falls, and you wrench your eyes away, a wave of nausea washing over you. This is the price of an insult. This is the consequence of a boast. This is the first drop of blood in a feud that you know, with chilling certainty, will not end here. The concept of honor, Hiadior, in your world is a demanding and thirsty god. It must be fed with wealth, with words, and, when necessary, with blood. An insult could not simply be ignored. It had to be answered. To fail to respond to a challenge like Harald's was to become an IDNGR, the man of no honor. a social outcast. Bjorn is not just fighting for his life. He is fighting for his social existence. Suddenly, there is a shift in the battle. Harald, feinting to his left, creates an opening. His sword darts forward like a serpent's tongue, not at Bjorn's chest, but at his leg. Bjorn roars in pain and surprise, staggering back, a deep gash now bleeding freely from his thigh. He is wounded, not fatally, but his footing is now unsure. His powerful charge is slowed. Seeing their leader injured, Bjorn's men fight with a renewed desperation. They form a wall of shields around him, trying to protect him, to give him a moment to recover. Harald's men press their advantage, sensing a chance to end this now. The fighting spills out of the shattered doorway and into the yard. Under the cold light of the moon, it is no longer contained. The violence has broken the bounds of the hall and is now loose in the settlement. A little-known aspect of these conflicts is the role of neutral parties or peace weavers. In some sagas, older, respected men or even high-status women would literally step between the fighters, sometimes throwing a cloak over their weapons to demand a pause. This was an incredibly dangerous, but sometimes effective way to halt a fight before it escalated into a full-blown war. But there are no peace weavers here tonight. The bloodlust is too high. You watch, hidden in the shadows of the longhouse, as the fight in the yard rages. Harald is pressing his attack on the wounded Bjorn. He is the fox, moving in for the kill. He is faster. Then Bjorn, hobbled by his injury, is becoming a lumbering, predictable target. Then, the unthinkable happens. Bjorn, in a desperate lunge, overextends himself. His foot slips on the muddy ground. He stumbles and falls to one knee. For a single, terrible moment, he is exposed. Harald does not hesitate. He steps in, his sword a silver blur under the moon. He does not aim for the head or the heart. He makes a calculated, humiliating strike, slicing his blade across the back of Bjorn's sword arm. Bjorn screams, a sound of pure agony, and his sword-clad arrests to the ground. He is disarmed, defeated. The fighting stops. A sudden, ringing silence descends, broken only by the groans of the wounded. Harald stands over the kneeling, bleeding Bjorn. He has won. He has not killed his rival that would have guaranteed a blood feud with Bjorn's entire clan. Instead, he has done something far more cunning. He has utterly and completely humiliated him in front of his own people. He has wounded him, disarmed him, and left him alive to live with the shame. Harald turns, his chest heaving, his eyes wild with victory. His gaze sweeps over the scene, over the dead and wounded, and then it finds you, standing in the doorway. He walks towards you, his bloody sword still in his hand. He stops a few feet away. The jewel has a new owner, he says, his voice quiet but carrying in the sudden silence. The first drop of blood has fallen, and it has purchased you. Once again, the aftermath of the fight is a landscape of wreckage and shame. Harald and his men do not linger. In a brilliant and cruel strategic move, he does not take you with him. He leaves you there. His parting words, "The jewel has a new owner," were not a declaration of immediate possession. They were a seed of future conflict, planted in the ruins of Bjorn's honor. By leaving you, Harald has created an impossible situation for Bjorn. You are now the living symbol of his defeat. Every time Bjorn looks at you, he will be reminded of his humiliation. Every time his warriors look at you, they will remember their leader being disarmed and brought to his knees. Your presence is a constant, silent taunt. Harald has not stolen the prize. He has poisoned it and left it in his rival's house. In the days that follow, the longhouse is a place of grim, simmering tension. The dead are buried, the wounded are tended to. Bjorn, his arm and leg bandaged, is a thundercloud of silent fury. He does not speak to you. He barely even looks at you. When his gaze does fall on you, it is with a venomous hatred. You are no longer his cherished prize. You are his shame. You have become the center of a vortex of hatred, yet you are completely passive in it. You did not ask for this. You did not encourage Harald. You did nothing but exist. But in this world, your existence, filtered through the lens of your beauty, is an active, and now destructive, force. You are the excuse for the violence, the justification for the feud. This phenomenon is something that echoes through history and literature. A beautiful woman becomes a simple Helen of Troy, never a focal point for male ambition and conflict. Historians often debate the agency of these figures. Was Helen a willing participant or a helpless pawn? Was Guinevere a Visic adulteress or a political player? The sagas, too, are full of these what are women, Ediocona, women who are said to incite men to violence to avenge slights to their honor. They are often portrayed as the instigators of blood feuds. But you are not wedding anyone. You are not inciting revenge. You are simply trapped. The men have projected all their pride, ambition, and rage onto you. You are the canvas upon which they paint their dramas of honor and shame. Runa, Bjorn's wife, now treats you with a new kind of contempt. Before, it was the jealousy of a rival. Now, it is the scorn for a curse. She sees you as the source of her husband's dishonor, the cause of the deaths of her kinsmen who fell in the fight. She assigns you menial, humiliating tasks, work usually reserved for the lowest thralls. You scrub floors. You clean out the hearth. It is a deliberate act of degradation, a way to strip you of the special status your beauty once afforded you. And you comply. To protest is to draw attention, and attention is the last thing you want. You are more isolated than ever. The warriors who once looked at you with desire now look at you with resentment. The women who were once jealous now see you as a bad omen. You eat alone. You work alone. You sleep in your cold little room, listening to the angry, drunken shouts of a chieftain trying to drown his shame in ale. One evening, one of Bjorn's most loyal warriors, an old, grizzled man named Kedel, approaches you as you are cleaning a pot. His face is a roadmap of old scars. "This will not end here," he says, his voice a low rasp. "A man cannot live with this shame. Blood has been shed. More blood must follow." He is not threatening you. He is stating a fact. He is explaining the grim mechanics of the world you inhabit. Bjorn must retaliate. He must wash away the shame of his defeat with a successful act of vengeance against Harald. He must attack Harald's steeding, burn his ships, or kill him, or he must reclaim his honor by demonstrating his undisputed ownership of you. And how would he do that? Perhaps by formally marrying you, making you his wife in a public ceremony. But that would be a hollow gesture now. Or perhaps by getting you with child, creating a new heir whose very existence would be a claim of ownership. The thought sends a fresh wave of cold dread through you. You are caught in a terrible trap. You are a prisoner in the house of a man who hates you, but who cannot let you go, because to do so would be to admit defeat, and you are the declared prize of another man, who will likely return to claim you, sparking another round of violence. You are the excuse, the catalyst, the symbol. You are the beautiful, silent heart of a gathering storm, and you are beginning to realize that the storm will not pass until it has destroyed everything around you. The shame festers in Bjorn's hall like the wounds on his body. The winter snows come, blanketing the world in white and trapping everyone inside the longhouse with their resentment and fear. The dark, short days are filled with a heavy, brooding silence, and the long nights are fueled by ailed muttered threats. It is during this claustrophobic winter that you truly learn the meaning of blood feud. Kiddo, the old warrior, becomes your unwilling teacher. Perhaps he sees a flicker of your shared humanity, or perhaps he is just old and talkative. In the evenings, as he mends his leather gear by the fire, he speaks of feuds he has seen, of vengeful journeys and cycles of killing that have consumed entire families. A feud is a fire, he tells you one night, not looking at you, his hands busy with an AWL signer. Harold lit the spark with his insult. The fight in the hall was the kindling. Now, the fire smolders. It will not go out on its own. It must be fed more wood, or it must be quenched with blood. He explains the brutal, unforgiving logic of it all. It is a system of reciprocal justice. An eye for an eye. A kinsman for a kinsman. If one of Harold's men killed one of Bjorn's, then Bjorn's family was honor-bound to kill one of Harold's men of equal status. It was a terrible, symmetrical accounting of death. It is the duty of the son to avenge the father. Kedil murmurs, and the brother to avenge the brother. To fail in this duty is to be less than a man. It is to be a MIDNGR. This is the engine of the feud. A social obligation more powerful than law. More powerful even than the instinct for self-preservation. A man who failed to take up a legitimate feud would be scorned, ostracized. No one would trade with him. His children would struggle to find marriage partners, and his name would become a synonym for cowardice. A strange and fascinating, albeit grim, detail of this system was the possibility of settlement. A feud did not always have to end in the annihilation of one or both families. It could be resolved through arbitration at the thing. A panel of judges would assess the initial offense and all subsequent killings and injuries, and then assign a complex series of payments called WER Guild, or Mangold. Every person had a price based on their social standing. A chieftain was worth more than a freeman, who was worth more than a freed slave. A settlement involved a meticulous calculation of who owed what to whom, a balancing of the books of death with silver. But there will be no settlement here, Kedil says, shaking his head. The insult to Bjorn was too great, and Harold does not want silver. He wants this land. He wants Bjorn's ships. He wants you. Some wounds are too deep for silver to heal. Historians still debate how pervasive and all-consuming these feuds truly were. The Icelandic sagas, which are our primary source, are filled with them, portraying a society perpetually on the brink of violence. Some scholars argue that the sagas exaggerate, focusing on the sensational and the bloody. They suggest that for most people, life was a more peaceful negotiation, and that settlements were more common than endless cycles of revenge. But even if the sagas are exaggerated, they reveal the cultural mindset. They show a people obsessed with honor, reputation, and the necessity of retribution. You see this mindset in Bjorn every day. He is a caged bear, pacing the confines of his hall, his rage growing with every passing day of inaction. He drinks more. He is prone to sudden, violent outbursts over trivial matters. His warriors are restless. They're mellow. They are waiting for him to lead them, to give them a chance to reclaim their lost pride. You realize that this feud is not just about Harald and Bjorn. It is a living entity that has now enveloped everyone. Every person in this hall is part of it. The warriors must fight. The women must tend the wounded, and if their men are killed, they must whet the anger of their sons to continue the cycle. The children learn it from birth, listening to the stories of their family as enemies, inheriting the hatreds of their fathers. You are the unwilling symbol of this particular feud, but you now see that the feud itself is the true monster. It is a self-perpetuating machine of violence that, once started, is nearly impossible to stop. It follows its own terrible logic, demanding blood, consuming lives, and turning neighbors into mortal enemies for generations. As the winter drags on, you feel the pressure building. The smoldering fire Kittle spoke of is being fanned by whispers, by resentful glances, by the shame of a long, inactive winter. Something must break. Bjorn must act. He must lead a raid on Harald Dest's eating. And you know, with a sickening certainty, that when he does, you will be taken with him. You are the prize he must reclaim, the symbol of the honor he must restore. The endless, grinding cycle of revenge is preparing to turn, and you are trapped at its center. The winter breaks, the snow melts, the ice on the fjord cracks and groans, and the world turns from white to a damp, muddy brown. The arrival of spring is not a sign of hope, but a signal for action. The seas are navigable again. The time for brooding is over. The time for vengeance has come. But it does not come in the way you expected. One day, a ship is sighted, not one of Harald Dess, and not a strange raider. The banner is that of a powerful, neutral jarl named Sigurd, who rules the cluster of islands to the north. He is an old man, respected for his wisdom and feared for his wealth and the number of ships he commands. He is one of the few men in the region who is more powerful than both Bjorn and Harald combined. He is not coming for a raid. He is coming to mediate. The fragile, tense truce is called. Sigurd, the old jarl, will preside over a special assembly, a makeshift thing held on a neutral strip of shoreline halfway between Bjornness and Harald Dest territories. He has summoned both chieftains to present their cases. To refuse his summons would be to make an enemy of him, a foolish move for either man. The day of the assembly is overcast and windy. You are brought along, a piece of living evidence. You stand behind Bjorn and his warriors, a silent, cloaked figure. Across the clearing, Harald stands with his men. The air between the two groups crackles with hatred. In the middle, on a high-backed chair set on a small rise, sits Jarl Sigurd, his long, white beard whipping in the wind. This is the system of arbitration in action. When a feud threatened to destabilize an entire region, the powerful, respected third party could step in. It was an act of altruism. Widespread conflict was bad for trade and created unpredictable shifts in power. Sigurd is here to protect his own interests by containing the fire before it consumes his neighbors. Bjorn speaks first. He tells the story of Harald's visit, of the hospitality he offered. He speaks of the insult, the NID that was uttered in his hall. He describes the fight, the wounding of his men, and his own humiliation. His voice is tight with rage, but he presents his case clearly. He is demanding a massive payment of WER Guild, man gold, for his injuries, the deaths of his men, and the slight to his honor. Then Harald speaks. He does not deny the insult. He embraces it. He argues that his actions were justified. He frames the issue around you. He claims that Bjorn, by raiding a poor, undefended farmstead to capture a woman, acted without honor. He argues that such a prize, one without a worthy struggle, was not truly won. His insult, he claims, was not an act of malice, but a necessary correction, a defense of the warrior's code. He is a masterful politician, turning his aggression into a defense of tradition. It is a fascinating and often debated aspect of Norse law and custom, the tension between property rights and the codes of honor. Did Bjorn, by capturing you, have an absolute right of possession, or did the manner of your capture from a weaker, non-rival opponent invalidate that claim in the court of public opinion and warrior ethics? Sigurd's task is to navigate this murky territory. The old Jarl listens to both men without expression. He consults with his own advisors. The wind whips across the shore, and for a long time, the only sound is the cry of gulls and the crashing of waves. Finally, Sigurd gives his judgment. It is a masterpiece of diplomacy and power. He rules that Harald's insult was a breach of hospitality and honor. For this, Harald must pay a significant WE, our guild, to Bjorn, a sum of silver that is large enough to restore Bjorn's honor, but not so large as to cripple Harald. However, he also rules on the matter of you. He states that a woman of such renowned beauty, who has become the cause of such profound conflict, is a source of instability for the entire region. She is a firebrand, he declares, his voice booming over the wind, and she cannot remain in the hands of either man. Lest this fire flare up again, his solution is as shocking as it is pragmatic. You are to be removed from the equation. He will take you into his own household. You will live under his protection. As his ward, neither Bjorn nor Harald will have you. You will be married off, in time, to a man of Sigurd's choosing, likely some distant chieftain, far from this coast, in a marriage that will benefit Sigurd's own alliances. A stunned silence falls over the assembly. Bjorn is furious. He has won the silver but lost the prize. Harald is thwarted. He has weakened his rival, but failed to gain the ultimate reward. But neither man can challenge the verdict. Sigurd is too powerful. To defy him is to invite war with a far superior foe. You are numb. You have just been traded. You have been bartered like a contested piece of land. Your fate decided by 3 men on a windswept beach. You are being rescued. But it is not a rescue into freedom. It is a transfer of ownership. You are moving from one cage to another, albeit a larger and perhaps safer one. The fragile truce holds. The agreement is sealed with oaths. The silver is paid. The immediate threat of war has been averted. But as you are led away by Sigurd's men towards his waiting ship, you look back. You see the faces of Bjorn and Harald. Their feud has been officially settled, but there is no peace in their eyes. There is only the cold, banked fire of a hatred that has been suppressed, not extinguished. The agreement has stopped the bleeding, for now. But the feud is not over. The story of you, Bjorn, and Harald is now a legend, and the hatred it spawned has become a permanent feature of this landscape. Life in Jarl Sigurd's hall is different. The air is not thick with the raw, volatile ambition of beer nest eating, but with the calm, established weight of old power. Sigurd's longhouse is ancient, the timbers dark with the smoke of generations. His authority is unquestioned, his wealth immense. Here, you are not a source of conflict, but a symbol of its resolution. You are a living trophy of Sigurd's diplomatic victory. He treats you with a benign neglect. You are given comfortable quarters, fine clothes, and good food. You are under his protection, his guarantee, and no one would dare harm you here. But you are also, once again, a prisoner. You are a heist at a sword, which means you are a political asset to be managed. Your future is a chess piece in Sigurd's great game of alliances. It is in this strange, quiet limbo that you finally have the time and the space to think. The constant, Immediate fear for your life has receded, replaced by a deep, hollow ache. You have time to reflect on the journey that brought you here, a journey dictated entirely by the face you see in the reflection of a polished silver dish. You begin to truly look at it, to study it. The features that others called beautiful, the shape of your eyes, the color of your hair. To you, it is just your face, that to the world, it has been a catalyst, a beacon, a firebrand, a jewel, a trinket. It has been an excuse for greed, a motive for violence, a symbol of honor, and a token of shame. It has inspired a raid, ignited a brawl, and started a blood feud. It has cost men their lives. It has destroyed your home and your family. This is the curse. Your beauty was never truly yours. It was a public commodity, a story told by others, a value assigned by a market you had no control over. It was a resource that men sought to exploit, and in doing so, they trampled over the actual person who happened to wear that face. You remember your mother's lesson, so long ago it seems, about the power of the hand that holds the keys, the strength, incompetence, and skill. She was trying to arm you with a different kind of value, an internal one, to fight against the overwhelming power of your external value. But her domestic fortress was no match for the brutal realities of the Uton Guard are. The world outside the fence. There is a philosophical debate that historians of emotion sometimes touch upon. Did people in the past perceive themselves in the same way we do today? The modern concept of an intrinsic, individual self, separate from social roles, might be a relatively new invention. In your world, identity was deeply communal. You were your father's daughter, your husband's wife, a member of your kin group. Your personal feelings and desires were often secondary to the duties and expectations of these roles. Your beauty placed you in a terrible bind within this framework. It made you an extraordinary individual, setting you apart from the community. But it did not grant you individual freedom. Instead, it made you a more valuable communal asset, increasing the stakes of your social role to an unbearable degree. You were simultaneously an individual and a property, and the friction between those two states was the source of all the destruction. You think of the other women in Sigurd's hall, his wife, his daughters, the wives of his warriors. Some are plain, some are comely. They live their lives, manage their households, raise their children, and navigate the politics of the longhouse with a degree of normalcy you have never been allowed. Their faces do not start feuds. Their hair color does not invite raids. They are allowed to simply be people. Their identity is defined by their actions and relationships, not by a single, arbitrary aesthetic quality. You envy their ordinarance with an intensity that surprises you. Ordinarance is a kind of safety, a kind of freedom. One day, an old woman who serves as one of the jar LS healers, a woman skilled in herbs and lore, sees you staring into a basin of water. It is a heavy thing to carry the gaze of men, she says, her voice raspy but kind. They see the vessel, but they do not ask what it contains. She is the first person who has ever spoken of it with something resembling understanding. She sees not the asset, not the prize, not the curse, but the person burdened by it. In the quiet safety of Sigurd's hall, you begin a slow, painful process of mourning. You mourn your family, you mourn your home, and in a way, you mourn the girl you never got to be, the girl who might have married a local boy, who might have inherited her mother's loom, who might have lived a life defined by her own choices, however small. The curse of your beauty was that it stole your right to an ordinary life. It made you a character in an epic saga, A fate that sounds romantic in the songs of the Skald deaths, but which is a terrifying, unlonely thing to live through. The seasons turn in Sigurd Death Hall. The quiet, ordered life continues. A stark contrast to the chaos that defined your past. You are no longer the center of a storm. You are a ship in a calm, if enclosed, harbor. And in this stillness, something within you begins to shift. You are no longer just a passive object of fate. You are learning to watch, to listen, and to find the subtle currents of power that flow even in this well-ordered world. Your teacher is Sigurd Death's wife, an aging but formidable woman named Astrid. She is not warm, but she is observant. She sees that you are more than the beautiful, vacant prize that was delivered to her doorstep. She sees the intelligence in your eyes, the quiet way you absorbed everything around you. Perhaps she sees a younger version of herself, a woman who had to learn to navigate a world of powerful, violent men. She begins to give you responsibilities. At first, they are small. She asks for your opinion on the quality of a bolt of cloth brought by a trader. She has you supervise the thralls as they sort and store the winter's supply of dried fish. These are tests. She is gauging your judgment, your ability to command respect without raising your voice. You remember your mother's lessons from a lifetime ago. The strength of the hand that holds the keys. You apply that knowledge now. You prove to be a keen judge of goods, a fair but firm manager of the household staff. You demonstrate a deep understanding of weaving, of herbal remedies, of all the domestic arts that form the backbone of this society. You are showing Astrid, and through her, the rest of the household, that you are more than a pretty face. You have substance. This was a woman's path to influence. While men dominated the public sphere of the thing in the battlefield, the longhouse was a woman's domain. A capable HUS Frasier was the chief operating officer of a complex economic unit. She managed resources, oversaw production of food and textiles, and handled domestic diplomacy. Her competence was essential to her husband's success and prestige. While the sagas are filled with warrior heroes, they also contain many references to respected and powerful matriarchs whose wisdom was sought and whose authority was unquestioned within their own sphere. One day, a dispute arises between two of the Jar LS warriors over a stolen silver ring. The situation is tense, threatening to boil over into violence. Sigurd is away, trading on a far-off coast. The duty of keeping peace falls to Astrid. She calls the two men before her in the main hall. She listens to both sides. As she is about to render her judgment, she turns to you. "What say you?" she asks, her voice clear and carrying in the silent hall. All eyes turn to you. It is a shocking, unprecedented moment. She is publicly asking for your counsel. She is lending you her authority. You are terrified, but you push the fear down. You look at the two men, at their angry, proud faces. You remember the feast at Byrnes Hall, how a small spark of insult became a raging fire. You know that this is not just about a silver ring. It is about honor and reputation. You speak, your voice quiet but steady. You do not talk about who is right and who is wrong. You speak of the need for unity in the Jar LS Hall while he is away. You remind them that their loyalty is to Sigurd, and that their infighting dishonors him. You propose a solution that allows both men to save face a ritual oath of innocence and a shared drink to symbolize the end of the dispute. It is a judgment based not on law, but on social harmony. It is a solution that taps into a lesser-known aspect of Viking justice, the importance of community consensus. While there were lies, maintaining the peace and cohesion of the group was often the highest priority. A judgment that left one party feeling shamed and resentful could be more dangerous than no judgment at all. Historians debate whether this emphasis on community was a pragmatic tool for survival or a deeply ingrained cultural value. There is a long silence after you speak. The two warriors look at each other, then at Astrid. She nods slowly, a flicker of approval in her old eyes. "It is a wise counsel," she declares. "So it shall be." The crisis is averted, and in that moment, you feel a new kind of power, one that has nothing to do with your face. It is the power of wisdom, the power of influence, the power of being seen not as an object, but as a mind. You have not forgotten the curse of your beauty. It is a part of your story, a shadow that will always follow you. But you are no longer defined by it. You are beginning to forge a new identity, one built on the foundations your mother laid, and reinforced by the trust Astrid has shown you. You are becoming a force within the longhouse, a quiet, subtle power that works not through violence or threats, but through intelligence and diplomacy. You have learned that, in a world of sharp swords, a sharp mind can be a weapon of its own. You are no longer just the firebrand that starts conflicts. You are learning how to put them out. Years pass, the seasons turn, and the cycles of life in Sigurd's Hall continue their steady, predictable rhythm. You are no longer the new, exotic ward. You have become a fixture, a respected figure in the household, second only to Astrid herself. The Jarl, a man of his word. They eventually arranges a marriage for you, not to a fiery young chieftain, but to a steady, older widower, a trusted landholder from a distant fjord whose alliance benefits Sigurd. Your new husband is a kind man, if a quiet one. He respects your wisdom and is grateful for your skill in managing his large and prosperous farm. He treats you not as a prize, but as a partner. In your new home, you finally find a measure of the peace you have always craved. You have children. You hold the keys to your own longhouse. You have found, against all odds, a life of purpose and relative tranquility. But the past is never truly gone. The story of the blood feud between Bjorn and Harald has become a famous one, told by traveling scouts in the halls of chieftains up and down the coast. The feud itself never truly ended. The fragile peace brokered by Sigurd held for a time, but the underlying hatred remained. News travels, even to your remote fjord. You learn from traders and visitors what has become of the men who so violently shaped your early life. Bjorn, they say, never recovered from his humiliation. His hall, once a place of boisterous strength, became a sour, paranoid court. He lost the respect of his best warriors, who drifted away to serve other, more successful chieftains. He launched a few ill-fated, desperate raids against Harald, all of which failed, further diminishing his wealth and reputation. He died not in a blaze of glory, but from a fever brought on by a festering wound from a drunken brawl. His sons, lacking their father's initial strength and burdened by his legacy of failure, struggled to hold on to their dwindling lands. The fire of his ambition consumed him, leaving only ash. Harald, the cunning fox, fared better, but only for a time. His victory over Bjorn elevated him, and for several years he was a powerful force in the region. But his ambition was a hungry beast. His success made him arrogant, and he made new enemies. He was eventually killed in an ambush at sea, a victim of a new feud he had started with another rival. His sons now fight amongst themselves for control of his lands, their inheritance squandered by the same cycle of violence their father so expertly manipulated. The feud they started over you has left a long, dark shadow. It has weakened both their families, costing them lives, wealth, and stability. Entire farmsteads that were once prosperous are now struggling. The conflict trickled outwards, drawing in other families, creating new grievances and new cycles of revenge. The ghost of that fight in Byrnes Hall still haunts the entire region. It is a pattern historians see repeated throughout the sagas and, presumably, in reality, a blood feud was a negative-sum game. It rarely created a clear winner. More often, it was a slow, grinding process of mutual destruction that could bleed powerful families dry over generations. This is one of the great puzzles of the Viking Age. Why did a society that was so pragmatic in its engineering and exploration cling to such a self-destructive social mechanism? The answer seems to lie in the overwhelming cultural importance of honor, a concept for which men were willing to sacrifice everything: wealth, family, and life itself. One evening, a traveling skald, a poet and storyteller, visits your hall. He does not know who you are. To him, you are simply the respected wife of his host. After the meal, he takes up his harp and begins to tell a story to entertain the household. It is the story of Bjorn the Proud and Harald the Sly, and it is the story of the beautiful captive with the sun-gold hair, the firebrand of the north. You sit in your high seat, the keys to the household at your belt, your children asleep nearby, and you listen to your own life being told as a legend. The Skaldes version is dramatic and romanticized. It is a tale of great heroes, of passionate love and heroic violence. He sings of Bjornes' mighty capture of the fairest maid in all the lands. He sings of Harald's cleverness in outwitting his rival. In the song, you are a passive, almost mythical creature, a catalyst for the great deeds of men. You have no voice, no thoughts, no fear. You are a beautiful plot device. The reality, you know, was so much messier. It was not glorious. It was terrifying, and ugly, and sad. It was the smell of fear and stale wool in a dark corner of a longhouse. It was the cold grip of a captor's hand. It was the bitter taste of shame and the gnawing ache of loneliness. The people in your hall listen, captivated. To them, it is a grand adventure, a story for a long winter's night. They do not see the real woman from the stories sitting amongst them, a woman whose life was shattered by these great deeds. The feud has left ghosts all over the land, and you realize you are one of them, a ghost of a past that has been transformed into a story that no longer belongs to you. The Skaldes song becomes a part of the landscape. Over the years, you hear it again, sung by different storytellers, each with their own small embellishments. The names remain the same: Bjorn, Harald, and the beautiful, unnamed maiden who was the cause of their downfall. You have become a legend in your own lifetime, your true self slowly being erased and replaced by a poetic symbol. It is a strange and disembodying experience. You are now the matriarch of a large and prosperous household. Your children are growing. Your advice is sought on matters of farming, trade, and even local disputes. You have built a life of substance and respect, a life based on the very skills your mother tried to teach you. And yet, to the wider world, you are frozen in time, forever the young firebrand, the beautiful object of a famous feud. This transformation from person to legend is a process that has fascinated historians and folklorists for centuries. How do real historical events and people become myths? The process often involves simplification and romanticization. The messy, complex realities are smoothed over. Motivations are clarified. Characters become archetypes. The Skaldes, as the primary media of their day, were not journalists concerned with factual accuracy. They were entertainers and oral historians. Their goal to create a compelling narrative that reinforced cultural values like the importance of honor and the glory of a good fight. You notice how the story changes to suit the audience. In a hall known for its fierce warriors, the scout will emphasize the bloody details of the battles. In a more politically minded court, he will focus on the clever insults and diplomatic maneuvering. You, however, always remain the same. Beautiful, passive, and tragic. The perfect catalyst. One of the more peculiar and debated aspects of this oral tradition is the role of memory and truth. Were the Skaldas intentionally altering the story? Or did the narrative naturally evolve in the retelling, like a game of telephone over generations? Some scholars believe that the core events of a saga were considered true, but the details, dialogue, and motivations were open to artistic interpretation. The story of your life has become public domain, a raw material for any poet to shape as he sees fit. One day, your eldest son, a thoughtful young man on the cusp of adulthood, comes to you. He has just returned from a trip to a neighboring Jar-Ellis Hall where he heard the famous song. He looks at you with new eyes, a mixture of awe and confusion. "Mother," he says, his voice hesitant, "the woman in the Skaldash song, the one they call the Northern Star. Her hair was the color of summer wheat, and her eyes the color of the sea. Like yours." He is putting the pieces together. He is realizing that the mythical figure from the epic poem is his own mother. You look at your son, and for the first time, you decide to reclaim your own story. You sit him down and you tell him the truth. Not the glorious, romanticized version from the song, but the real story. You tell him about your father, not a nameless peasant, but a good and brave man who loved his daughter. You tell him about your mother, and her lessons of quiet strength. You describe the terror of the raid, the cold misery of the long ship, the shame of being a prize in Bjorness Hall. You tell him about the fear and the loneliness. You strip away the poetry and show him the raw, human pain beneath. You are giving him a different kind of inheritance. The Skaldas have given him a legacy of epic violence. You are giving him a legacy of survival. You are teaching him that honor is not just found in fighting, but in enduring. That strength is not just in a sword arm, but in a wizened, compassionate heart. As you speak, you feel a weight lifting from you, a weight you didn't even realize you were carrying. For decades, you have been silent, allowing the world to tell your story for you. Now, you are taking it back. You are changing the narrative, not for the world, but for the one person who matters most. You are transforming the legend back into a life. Your son listens, his expression changing from boyish excitement to a man's somber understanding. He is seeing beyond the beautiful symbol. He is seeing his mother. He is seeing the real cost of the violence that the songs make seem so glorious. The Skaldas song will continue to be sung in the great halls. The legend of the firebrand will live on. But in your own home, within your own family, a new story will be told. A truer story. It will be a story not of a passive jewel, but of a resilient woman who survived the fire and learned to build a life from the ashes. And that, you realize, is a much better story to leave behind. The years continue their relentless, gentle march. Your hair, once the color of summer wheat, is now streaked with the silver of winter frost. The face that launched a raid and fueled a feud has softened, etched with the fine lines of a life fully lived, lines of laughter from watching your children grow, lines of concentration from managing a great household, lines of sorrow for a past that never truly fades. You are old now, a great-grandmother, the matriarch of a thriving clan. respected and loved. Your husband is passed, and you rule the household in your own right. Your son the official master, but your wisdom the guiding hand. The keys at your belt feel as much a part of you as your own hands. The curse has faded, as your famed beauty receded. So did the specific danger it attracted. No one looks at you now and sees a prize to be stolen. They see a wise woman, a VOLVA of a different sort, one whose magic is in her experience and her deep understanding of the human heart. You have, in a way, grown into the safety of being ordinary, though your life has been anything but. The world outside has changed as well. The old feuds have mostly burned themselves out, replaced by new alliances and new quarrels. The sons of Bjorn and Harald are minor chieftains now. Their family has power a pale shadow of what it once was. Their grandfather's bloody conflict is now just an old story, a cautionary tale sung by the fire. You have outlived them all. You have outlasted their rage. It is a quiet evening. The longhouse is filled with the familiar, comforting sounds of your family. Your grandchildren play on the floor with carved wooden toys. Your daughters-in-law are spinning, their spindles whirling in the firelight. Your son is discussing the spring planting with his own sons. It is a scene of profound and hard-won peace. You sit in your high seat, a warm fur blanket over your lap, and you feel a sense of completion. You have survived. That, in itself, is a victory greater than any battle won by Bjorn or Harald. They fought for honor and glory, transient things that faded with their deaths. You endured for the sake of life, and the proof of your victory is all around you. In the breath and laughter filling this hall, there is a concept that some historians of the Viking Age discuss, though it is a subtle one and much debated. It is the idea of good fortune or guy d'affaires. It was just luck. It was a kind of spiritual quality, an innate charisma or life force that some people possessed, which allowed them to thrive and succeed. Men like Bjorn and Harald had a form of it, a warrior's luck that brought them wealth and victory for a time, but yours was a different kind of guy, a survivor's fortune. It was quieter, more resilient, and ultimately, more enduring. You look at your hands, gnarled now with age, but still capable. These hands have ground grain, woven cloth, tended the sick, and held newborn babies. They have held the keys to 3 different households. They have built a life, a real and lasting one, on the foundation of ashes. The young girl who hid under a sheepskin, the terrified captive on the long ship, the shamed prize in a chieftain's hall, she is still a part of you. You carry her story, the true one, within you, but she no longer defines you. She is the beginning of the tale, not its end. The great irony is that your beauty, the curse that brought so much destruction, is what ultimately set you on this path. Without it, you would have lived and died in your small village, your life unrecorded, forgotten. The curse, in a strange and terrible way, made you. It forced you to become something more than you ever would have been. It forged you in a fire that should have consumed you, but instead tempered you into something strong and unbreakable. You close your eyes, listening to the symphony of your peaceful home. The danger has passed. The storm is over. The long, dark voyage has brought you, at last, to a safe harbor, and in the warmth of the fire, surrounded by the family that is your true legacy, you finally find rest. The fire in the great hall has burned low now, its embers glowing with a soft, sleepy orange light. The sounds of the day have faded, replaced by the gentle rhythm of a house at rest. The stories have all been told. The clamor of swords and the whispers of intrigue have dissolved into the quiet hum of the night. You feel a great stillness settle over you, a comfortable weight, like a heavy fur blanket on a cold winter's evening. The world outside this hull, with its windswept coasts and restless seas, feels very far away. The journey has been long, the path strewn with hardship and fear, but it has led you here, to this moment of profound peace. The shadows dancing in the corners of the room are no longer menacing giants, but old friends, keeping watch as you drift. Your breath deepens, seasoning with the slow, ancient pulse of the sleeping earth. The past is a tapestry woven and hung on the wall, a story you can look at, but one you no longer have to live inside. Its bright, violent colors have softened with time, becoming part of the rich, dark fabric of your life. There are no more shores to reach, no more storms to endure. There's only the gentle, rhythmic tide of your own breathing, pulling you out into a calm and silent sea of dreams. You are safe. You are home. You are at peace.